Welcome to Bourbon-n-Blockchain Happy Hour. Today is April 28th, 2022. I am joined by Draco and Myron. Draco, how you doing tonight?
Doing great. Having a good day, and just trying to keep up my hopes and try to keep Bitcoin and the rest of the market into the positive. But it just seems like it keeps wanting to go down rather than pump up. So just keeping the positive vibes going.
Yeah. How about you, Myron?
Doing okay. So one more day, then it's the weekend. It feels like such a long week. And this week
Uh,
we had a lot of earnings, a lot of huge earnings. And today we had Amazon and Apple. And Amazon came in, they missed it, which dropped the overall markets a little bit. Amazon's, I think, at most it was down like 10%. Maybe now it's like down 7%. And Amazon's a huge part of the QQQ, and QQQ is all the tech stocks. So unfortunately, I think right now for the most part, Bitcoin still kind of follows it. But for the recent, today there was a huge pump in the SP 500 and QQQ, but Bitcoin honestly didn't move that much. But even though now we have a pretty big drop, Bitcoin is kind of holding right there too. So Bitcoin is holding this close to 40,000 level fairly well, and you're just kind of wondering. It feels like it's gearing up for a huge move up or down because it's been in this range holding for I don't know past week or two. So we'll see what happens in the general market. Hopefully, well, this is the bottom. There, because we got all the earnings. It's over with. Maybe we'll have some issues too. We can start moving up. But man, this market, I'll just say this is super boring right now. If you're just kind of long term holding it, I guess if you're like intraday trading, it's very exciting.
yeah, it is the dog days of crypto right now. I feel like, I mean, there's good stuff, in the news, but yeah, the charts just aren't looking too good right now. So this tech chart, you think Bitcoin kind of follows this tech chart that we have up right here?
Yes, I think it follows this and SPY. But the thing is, like I said, today SPY and QQQ went up a lot. Like they pumped a lot, but Bitcoin wasn't going up that much. So it feels like stocks feels really weird right now because all the fundamental points that it can go down, but I think you're getting to a point where people getting too bearish and the market's just going to rally. And I think one thing is like whatever the normal person would do, you do the opposite. Today, a lot of people were super optimistic about the Apple earning, and Apple earning they beat it, and so the stock went up. They just dropped after a good earning. Then it's really weird right now. And Bitcoin, this we drew this channel. I think last week we showed
Yep.
it. It's still within that channel technically. So I guess if you believe that it can move up from this because we're kind of at the bottom of the channel, then maybe good time to start buying some of these altcoins even. Because man, I'm looking at some of these altcoins and the price is so juicy, man.
Yeah.
AVAX in the 60s, Phantom below $1. I'm just looking at this list. These are the prices I would have bought so much just a couple months ago, but now I'm looking at it. I'm just like, man, I don't know if I wanted this price anymore.
Yeah, if you're in stable coins right now, you're sitting very pretty, and it's starting. The market's looking very good to you. If you're in stables.
Yeah, I mean, buying opportunities are everywhere. It just how bullish are you on the market in the short term and midterm? I think everybody agrees that eventually we're gonna, get out of this, but when? That's the question. So I think there's a lot of hesitation right now because, yeah, you want to buy AVAX at 60 and FTM under $1, but if the market continues to go downward, which could potentially happen, now you're like buying at a loss, and nobody wants to do that. So that's the that's the crux of the position.
Yeah, don't try to catch a falling knife. That's
Nope.
what they
The
say.
really the really tough thing is when Bitcoin, during the first drop when we found out Russia invaded Ukraine, Bitcoin dropped to like the 35, 34s, maybe a wick to 33. So during that wick, FTM was, above $1 at that point. But now Bitcoin is in the 40,000 range and FTM is under $1. So now
Hmm.
the big question is, I mean, I guess most most of these altcoins are pretty low. So I guess the big question is, okay, if Bitcoin does drop like to the mid 30s or low 30s, like where are these altcoins going? Is FTM going to like 50 cents? This is just, it's crazy to think about because I'm super bullish on FTM. I'm super bullish on AVAX, but it just feels so bad because right now Bitcoin seems like it's holding and these altcoins just, I mean, I guess that's the cycle. I think people say what we see in the past is after Bitcoin rallies and kind of cools off a little bit, then you get these altcoin rallies. But man, this like I guess I'll ask you guys, Draco and Smokey. Are you guys buying FTM in under $1 or AVAX? Are you guys picking anything up right now?
So I right now like I like went too early personally. So what I mean by that is you know, I started buying things like 2 months ago. So now I've kind of like, you know, I've set a bunch of positions that are higher than what they, you know, are now. And I'm just kind of diversifying in other things because I don't know how long this is going to go for. So I diversified in several different, you know, chain tokens, you know, Solana, AVAX, FTM. Um, I guess you could say, you know, I got into just pretty much most of the top chain tokens, Matic. But now I'm just kind of going into other, you know, projects that are like yield earning projects or node projects that are alternative projects, like crypto for winners and yield nodes. And I'm looking at freeway finance right now as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what yield nodes does in this kind of market, you know, because have they been tested? They've been around since 2019 and they performed well when the market's up or down, but this will be probably their first big test. Would you say that's true, Draco?
You know, I think that they've seen some dramatic pullbacks and still were able to, you know, have some pretty good gains. And if you look at some of the tokens that they you know, utilize in the masternode, most of them are doing pretty well. So I don't think that they're going to have a huge impact on their percentage of income returns.
Okay. Well, with that, we'll move on to the articles. And by the way, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. So the headlines are looking great for Bitcoin, even though the chart's not great. There's always, you know, stuff in the news where Bitcoin's getting more and more mainstream. And now Goldman Sachs has announced that they're going to have a Bitcoin-backed loan program. And Myron, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, this is something that really separates Bitcoin from stocks. You can't borrow against your stocks, at least not at like the mainstream level, right?
You can probably do some like
unique to Bitcoin, correct?
Over-the-counter stuff, like some, you know, if you go directly to the banks. And I think, you know, if you're big enough, like Elon, you can borrow against your stocks. People know he'll be good for it. But yeah, you can't. There's no easy way for you to be like, "Hey, I got this stock," and then we just borrow against it. So
right,
yeah, this is big.
This is such a huge reason to own Bitcoin because if you get in a pinch where you need cash, you don't have to sell your Bitcoin. You can just borrow against it. So I think this is going to be big. Treating Bitcoin like real property is going to be a game changer. What are your thoughts on this, Draco?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've talked about this before, and you know, I want to do an entire show just on Bitcoin eventually and talk about it, but you know, Bitcoin is different than everything else. The reason why they're doing this is because Bitcoin is not a token, it's not a currency, it's not a stock, it's a property. That's the way that it's viewed by everybody. It's viewed as a property, and because it's a property, you can take loans against it, just like a property, like a physical property or home. So if you own a home, you can take out a second mortgage. You can leverage against your property and your assets and take loans out on that. That's what people are eventually going to be doing. And if you think about it, this is just Goldman Sachs following up on what Michael Saylor's already done. MicroStrategy's already did this with Silverbank. Silverbank gave MicroStrategies a $500 million loan on their Bitcoin, and they bought more Bitcoin with it. That's huge. That, like, you can't really do that with many other things. You can do that with gold, right? But not many people would do that with gold because of the price volatility. It moves so slow. So I think that this is a really big game changer, and what this is going to set up long term is for people to hold the asset long term because it's a store of value. And if you treat it as such, as a store of value, you don't have to sell your Bitcoin to earn money on it or to utilize your capital that you have invested in Bitcoin. So hypothetically, if you have $100,000 in Bitcoin and a company is willing to do a 30 or 40% leverage, you can take $30 or $40,000 of loan out on the Bitcoin you have and pay it back over time with a low percentage. I mean, that's huge.
Myron, are you going to be utilizing this?
I'm too poor to utilize this, man. I don't have one whole Bitcoin, so won't be able to borrow much. But this, I'm just thinking maybe it'll help a little bit with, just like you said, maybe people need some liquid money instead of selling Bitcoin. Now they can just take a loan, loan on the Bitcoin. I do wonder how they're going to do this if Bitcoin, the price is so volatile. I guess they'll just do it whatever the price at that moment is, or maybe we're gonna do 5%, whatever percent lower than whatever the Bitcoin price is right now. I'm just thinking there's probably a way to game this or something. If you think Bitcoin's going down, don't want to sell it, take a loan against. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
it's really hard to I guess do a loan based on something that's so volatile, because Bitcoin, I think, is still very volatile. But I mean, the stocks even right now are very, very volatile. So because it went down like 50%, but it can go up by just as much. And day to day, there's many percentages shift. It's just going to be insane, because you can maybe in the morning to the afternoon, you can have 5-10% drop or increases. I just don't really. I'll be interested to see how exactly they value it, how they give you that loan.
Yeah.
It might be like a pawn shop thing, right? Where they give you just a percentage that you can take out, where it's not one for one.
It's got to be a percentage. They won't let you take the whole thing out, and it's got to be a leveraged percentage, But one thing that I want to add to this really quick before we go to the next one is, I stole this from Michael Saylor, so I want to give credit where credit's due. But think about this: if it's property and the property is going to increase in value over time, let's say that your grandmother owned an entire city block in Manhattan. And if she owned an entire city block in Manhattan, and at the time she sold that for a Lambo, and let's say that was 80 years ago, what it would be worth now would be, times, 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000. But if she sold it for a Lambo, you'd be like, what the hell, grandma? Like, that was generational wealth, right? Why would you do that? I think that that's exactly what's happening here. A block in Manhattan is going to become a Bitcoin. And if you sell that because you wanted to buy a Lambo when you were, 30 years old and trying to, make a family, you could be throwing away generational wealth. And how do you avoid that? You allow people to leverage on their Bitcoin so that they don't have to sell it. So grandma doesn't have to sell a block in New York. She has to rent it. So she would have to allow somebody to build on it, and then she would rent the land. Or she would, build her own property and rent that property to people, or to have a landlord, right? That's how you make money on your property. This is the same thing.
So we have the 3-3 staking, when DAOs were big for a while. Then time comes out where you can borrow against time for stables, for MIM, and they have this 9-9, which is straight up degen, and it caused a lot of the liquidation cascade that led to the drop of the time price. So do you think people are gonna essentially 9-9 this by getting Bitcoin, borrowing against it like Michael Saylor? Except now it feels like if they open this up for everyone, then we as just normal people can, I guess, buy Bitcoin, take out a loan on Bitcoin, buy more Bitcoin, then just keep doing that.
I would guess Goldman's not going to let you do that. I think some of the other places will, like you'll be able to find lenders that let you do that, but I doubt the mainstream ones like Goldman will let you do that. That's my thinking. They'll put terms in the loan where you can't do that.
Yeah, and eventually there'll be so much money in Bitcoin. It'll be so big. It'll have so many trillions of dollars that no matter what you did, it wouldn't affect the price, because huge institutions would have so much of it that they're not going to sell, that it wouldn't budge as much as you'd think.
Yeah. So with that, we'll move to the next topic. This one's pretty interesting. So Fort Worth, Texas is the first city in America to set up a mining rig. So they're actually, a government's going to make money without taxing or without having to use the force of law or the barrel of a gun. They're actually going to just set up a mining rig and make their own money. I think this is huge. I don't know, Draco, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a step in the right direction. I think that this, again, huge bullish news for crypto in general, and bullish news for Bitcoin. Now you got to remember, all of these news articles are going to be followed by price action over time, right? So like we're not going to see this hit the market right away. But one of the things that I hope that they continue to do, if this becomes a fad or something, like something that continues to grow, which I think it will, I hope that, although I'm not a huge fan of people attacking Bitcoin and proof of work for its, energy consumption, I do think it's responsible long term to look at alternative energy and things like that. And so far, the best alternative energy methods that I've heard of would be using, hydro dams. And I think that that's a really, really, really bullish idea, because if you think about it, hydro energy is constant; it keeps going, and you could really run a lot of mines off of that and create a lot of energy. So, I mean, I hope that they're keeping that stuff in mind, just because, and it's not because like I'm a huge advocate for the environment. I am an advocate for the environment, but what I'm saying is that in order to keep people from attacking this asset class, they're going to have to find ways to mitigate that attack. And I think that as long as they keep that in mind, this is going to spread through all the states. And I think it's pretty clear that it's going to spread through some of the red states first.
What do you think, Myron?
Man, I'm from Texas. I just gotta say, we're innovators, man. We're doing
Hell yeah.
I mean, this is awesome to hear. It's pretty crazy that the government, is doing this, which is, just like Draco, I think in US Smoke, you were saying, we're getting a lot of bullish news on crypto, and you just said that eventually the price has got to follow, because I think the fundamentals are there. All right, fundamentally, I think Bitcoin, one, I think it's a great hedge against inflation, because it's deflationary. It's built to be deflationary, and now these big banks are recognizing it. Now the government, I mean, essentially, this is like the local government recognizing that it's legit. Well, why would you mine something that's worthless, right? So it's all these bullish news, and we just I think the only thing that's holding Bitcoin back right now is the general market. There's so much uncertainty about Fed, what they're gonna do with raises and things like that. I think once we get all that settled, it might take couple weeks, couple months, or maybe even this whole year, or whatever time it takes. But eventually, people are going to recognize this as something that's legit, and the price will follow. But it does take some patience to get there, though.
Absolutely.
What is this anti-miner S9? Do you guys know anything about this miner?
Yeah, that's just the model of a miner. That's like one of the, there's like if you were gonna buy an Xbox 360 or an Xbox One or an Xbox X, the Bitmain Antminer S9 is just a model of a miner that mines Bitcoin.
All right, gotcha. Well, yeah, there's some other good news with crypto. So, in the world of laws and regulation, we have Central Africa made Bitcoin legal tender by a unanimous vote. Brazil is allowing cryptocurrency trading on an exchange, which is new. The central bank passed regulations that allow people to buy and sell crypto on the exchange. And then one of the big ones, Russia, their central bank's doing the same thing. They're going to allow their citizens to buy and sell crypto on the stock exchange. It looks like that'll be kind of like the PayPal Robinhood model, where you're allowed to buy and sell crypto, but I doubt they're going to let them take it off and put it on a MetaMask wallet or something like that. But it is big, though. We are seeing countries around the globe loosen up the cryptocurrency laws. Myron, what's your thoughts on this? Is this going to turn the charts around?
The sad thing is, I think there's so much of this news building up. I think same thing with the ones we mentioned before. Even though all the news is bullish, even though we're seeing more and more governmental adoption, is just there's still too much uncertainty in this world. And even right now, I think, like, if I tell my parents or my coworkers about Bitcoin or crypto, I think the first instinct for them would be that this is very risky, and I don't think they will say, "Oh, Bitcoin, that's a great hedge or great storage of value," or like what Draco says, "Oh, that's like a Manhattan property," right? They wouldn't immediately think of that. They would think it's a risky asset, just like penny stocks or things like that, where it's speculative. I think that's to them that. So I think this, like, the governments are adapting it. So now it takes, you have the early adopters. it slowly builds. I think the mass adoption, that's still gonna take a while. But definitely with these news, I guess if the normal people are reading this, they say, hey, maybe Bitcoin is actually legit, since the governments are kind of saying that it is, by giving it validity by doing these things. So we just need that mass adoption, and we need that SEC or the government stance, the clear regulation stance on Bitcoin. And before that happens, I think right now they're still moving forward with the ETF Bitcoin, and that might take a month before it actually gets settled. That might be another huge thing where if that comes out, maybe there'll be some decoupling from the general stock market. But again, this is just going to take time. But the more of these positive news we have, I think the faster we'll get there.
What do you think, Draco?
I agree. I think that I think we're kind of building up a springboard, and it might not happen now. It might not be a week or two. It might not even be this month. It might be, at the end of the summer. Who knows? But I feel like we're building up pressure, a lot of it. And when all of these things have been activated already and we forgot about them, and positive news and then the chart and the technical analysis and all that stuff comes together, it's going to be hard to catch up with where Bitcoin's going. You're going to see it. You're going to go to bed and you're going to wake back up and it's going to be 10K higher, and then you're going to be like, oh man, I got to go to work, and then you come back home and it's another 8K higher, and you're like, man, I don't want to miss a buy position, and it by the time you log in, it's already getting higher and higher. I think it's going to be one of those things, just like what happened last summer. It's going to just kind of take off. And this type of news is exactly what's going to drive that into the future. The more, I think we'll have at least 5 countries by the end of 2022 that'll have Bitcoin adoption as legal tender or as a currency. I think we'll have 5. So right now we have 2. And the amount of countries that are legislating it, it's literally like 1 or 2 every other week, or they're legislating Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And I think that that's great. And specifically with large investment companies such as Fidelity and BlackRock and all these other people that are starting to allow you to accumulate it and put it into your 401k and stuff like that, it's just going to take off. It's going to be crazy. We're not going to be able to even figure out what's going on with Bitcoin when it happens. And the other thing is too, I think that a lot of the stuff you were talking about, Myron, with regulation and countries adopting it and legalization and all this other stuff, I think that's what a lot of intelligent investors are waiting for, or that's what a lot of institutions might be waiting for, or big hedge fund investors. But honestly, your typical retail individual, I think they're waiting for something to flash across their screen, like just kind of like at the Super Bowl where you saw the Bitcoin sign or the Coinbase sign going around. I think that something like that, the right celebrities coming out and saying, I own Bitcoin. That's what's going to get people into this, unfortunately. That's going to get more retail adoption. And I think that, eventually that kind of stuff is going to continue to happen. I think the people that are involved now, the big voices of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, are too high level, and people don't understand it when they speak. And they need to have more people that are just on board in crypto that are like celebrity level status.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's 2 main hurdles. I've always thought that one is this legitimate, is this a legitimate asset to get into? And all these laws, help us get over that hurdle. The fact that all these countries are legalizing it and celebrities are talking about it, that helps us get over that hurdle. The more difficult hurdle is just the technical know-how, because we take it for granted. Like everybody on Discord knows how to get crypto very easily, but there's a lot of people out there where this just sounds like a bunch of technical jargon that, I don't, that sounds like so much effort to learn. I got a brother a year older, and whenever I talk about it with him, he's like, oh, that just sounds like so much work to learn, and we know it's not that bad, but that's the other hurdle. That's the second hurdle that people got to get over to get in. And I think companies will come up with innovative ways to make it easier to get into, but yeah, these headlines definitely get us over that first hurdle, though. I think people are seeing this as a legitimate asset now. And like you said, this will all show up in the market probably like 6 months from now, or maybe a year from now, or something like that. All these headlines we're seing now, they're eventually going to get priced into the market.
Yep. Long-term bullish, baby.
Yep.
I think like what you said, Draco, I think the lesson in general is do not think like retail. Retail are the people who buys when it's already up a huge amount. They say, "Oh man, I gotta get in now because I just missed a ride," and they buy in, and that's when it starts selling off, or we get a short-term pullback and things like that. I think the smart people, like you said, we're talking about is you're either slowly loading up right now, or you're watching this price. You're getting it before these regulations come out. You're getting it before these big banks can easily get into it. You're getting it before these news breaks into the retail crowd. Because man, I think when everyone starts, even when I started just trading stocks or cryptos, you always want to chase the thing that's already up a whole bunch. But when it's already up a whole bunch, you probably missed the ride. And another sad thing is when it's down like this, people, that's when the more it's down, the less people want to buy. And I think people joke about this a lot. They say stocks, crypto, whatever it is, it's like the one asset we're so intuitive to the human mind, where if you go to the store, right, if you want to buy let's say a Sony TV, or you want to buy a PS5, it's $500-$600. Imagine if you go to the store tomorrow, it's like, oh, it's $100 now. What are you gonna do? You gonna buy it?
I'm not gonna buy that because there might be something wrong with it, or it's gonna go lower.
Yeah, it's $100, man. I want it as 500. I don't want it 100. But that's the mentality people have on these stocks and things like that. But of course, this only works. This only works for things that have good fundamental. You can buy things, coins, meme coins and things like that. That goes to zero. That trend to zero. But if it's like legitimate assets, I think Bitcoin. I can't speak for other ones. I want to say that even AVAX can make it, Phantom's gonna make it, Matic's gonna make it, so all these ones. But we don't really know. In 5 years, we really don't know if they're gonna make it. But Bitcoin, Ethereum, probably gonna make it, and more so than Ethereum, Bitcoin is going to. I think it's gonna be around. So it's fundamentally sound. So people need to start watching it. If you don't want to buy it, you should be watching it. And maybe have a plan to say, hey, if it goes to this point, I'm going to buy a little bit, or I'm going to buy, just consistently every single month, or whatever it is.
Dollar cost average in.
Yeah.
And for those people that think that Bitcoin's going to go somewhere, a lot of these huge companies like Fidelity, they're only allowing you to buy Bitcoin because it's the only asset they recognize. Mm-hmm. That's it. Like, that's your only option because, that's what they feel about it. So if that's what big companies, multi-trillion-dollar companies like Fidelity think, why don't you pay attention?
Don't chase it. When it comes up, like Jacob says, get shoot up 10,000 or whatever amount it is, then it might not be too late, but you just missed a lot of the huge run that it has.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't really blame Fidelity for being like that. I mean, I do feel like everything other than Bitcoin is a question mark. I think it's worth investing. Other stuff is worth investing in and speculating on, but I feel like Bitcoin is kind of like the only thing that's really like a sure thing, or the closest thing we have to a sure thing in the space. So it makes sense. Mm-hmm. But speaking of long-term outlooks, Facebook had an earnings call today, and one of the investors asked them about when they're going to see profit returns on the metaverse. And Zuckerberg told them he expects the metaverse to turn a profit in 10 years. So Myron, I don't know, if you were an investor in Meta or Facebook and you heard that, what would you think? What would your outlook be on the Facebook metaverse?
I think, I don't like Facebook, but I do think, I'll say this. I don't like Facebook. I don't like the metaverse, but I think both are going to be great in the long term.
That's a long time, though, isn't it? I mean, to not even see profit for 10 years.
Yeah, but in some of these investors, they just have that long view. I don't think Facebook is going to disappear. I think they're taking the first step by going into the metaverse. It may hurt in the short term because there's no mass adoption for it, and they're putting a lot of money up front for it. But I think if they don't do this, Facebook might not exist in like a decade. Mm-hmm. Because we just have new social media platform, maybe that goes into the metaverse. So I think that taking that short-term pain to do this, and even though Mark Zuckerberg looks like an alien, and he says, I used to be human like you guys, and he's like, oops, I am human. But hey, I am bullish on Facebook, and I was looking at the stock. I told my mom, because it dropped a whole bunch, right? I was like, Mom, I think around you can buy it around here 200, like 200. I think when she looked at it was like 207, and of course now it dropped down to 180 something, and earnings came out. It was not good, but it rallied because it was so oversold. Now it's back into the 200s again. I'll be watching it. I think it might get faded off a little bit, but if it drops into the 100s, 180s, 160, I think it might be okay to pick up some. And I think another one that they rallied is, I think Mark said that they're going to hold back on the metaverse a little bit, maybe not put as much money into it. But the thing is, I think they are making the right move because this will be the trend. It will eventually, metaverse will come to be, no matter how much I don't like it, because I think, man, like if people get addicted to World of Warcraft and these like online games that you're just in front of your computer, I think if metaverse really comes out, man, like people will be completely immersed in that real world, and they can be completely gone from the, they can be immersed in that fake world, and they be completely gone from the real world. And I don't think that's a good thing to me, but it is going to happen. I believe it's going to happen.
What do you think, Draco? What's your take on this long-term plan?
I don't know. I think that unfortunately they're going to have the amount of followers and the amount of money to do something successful. I just, in the back of my mind, you kind of start, there's like a shift going on that we're witnessing in real time, in my opinion. And I think people are starting to open their eyes a little bit, not much, but a little bit. And specifically with Facebook/Meta, they've been exploited. Everybody knows that all they're doing is stealing all of your information and spying on you. None of your messages are encrypted. None of the information that you put on Facebook is yours. I don't know if you guys know this, but when you put a picture on Facebook, did you guys know that you lose the property of that and that Facebook owns it from that point going forward? Did you know that?
Wow. No.
I remember that being a thing.
Read it, man. Once you post something on Facebook, you post a photo, you have lost the rights to that photo. They can do whatever they want with it. Now, you could still own the photo, right? I mean, they can't take it from you, but if it's on their site, they own it. So, I mean, they're stealing everything from you and giving nothing back. And I think that retail investors and people in general are starting to realize that these companies don't mean well for people. Like, I think there's a good way to do social media type stuff, and then there's the wrong way. And heavy censorship and all this other stuff is being exploited, even with Twitter. And I think if Facebook and Metaverse keeps going down that road, which they're going to, I mean, when you have that, complete control and power, absolute unwavering power that nobody can question, you're not going to give it up. And I think if they keep going down that route, it's going to be the detriment of that company as a whole. That's my belief overall with them. And I think that there's going to be so many competitors to them that aren't going to dabble in that nonsense that they're not going to be as successful as they want to be. I think that other companies are going to develop over that course of that 10 years that they're talking about and come up with something cheaper, better, faster, and more decentralized that doesn't steal your information, that kind of stuff. So that's how I think about it.
Yeah, my take on
you may
this
have
is,
the yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I was just gonna joke around that you may have your picture, but it's their NFT and they own it, and the blockchain proves it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think they're gonna make money in less than 10 years. I think this is lipstick on a pig, where they're just trying to get you to sign up for something where once you sign up for it, they can watch what websites you're visiting and all that stuff like they're doing now and sell your data. But they don't want to say that. So they'll maybe like buying and selling NFTs, maybe that'll turn a profit 10 years from now. But I think that once you sign up for this metaverse, they track all your internet usage and everything that they're doing now. Like if you're signed up for Facebook, and just sell your data to advertisers. So I think this is just another way to do that. And probably most people think that too. I don't think it's some unique point of view, but I just think he's trying to downplay that. He's not going to go out and say, oh yeah, once these people sign up for the metaverse, we're going to data harvest them and sell that to advertisers.
That's not popular.
Yeah. So that was kind of my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, and who knows? Maybe the next step is to put a group of individuals together to buy something like Metaverse and buy that out next because of how crazy and corrupt they are. So That would be wonderful. I would support that move 100%.
Yeah.
But talking about a project that didn't fail as hard as Facebook in terms of going to this metaverse, it's Bored Ape Yacht Club, which they have a huge event coming up this Saturday. Of they're gonna have their first land sale, I guess, on for their metaverse, not Meta's metaverse, but Bored Ape Yacht Club's metaverse. So the a couple of weeks ago, I think they released the Ape coin, and I think at the time of release, if you sold it, you made like $80,000 or $90,000. And now the price for that is actually higher than when most people sold it. It's having a huge rally right now in the past 2 or 3 days. Even though the whole market is kind of going down, that for this event, because you need ape coins to mint this land. And I mean, this whole project is just insane, right? We looked at a little bit. If you started from the mint was 0.08 was Ethereum. I think Ethereum was probably around 2,000. So it was like a couple hundred bucks to mint the Bored Ape Yacht Club. So you got Bored Ape Yacht Club. If you held it, then you also get the airdrop of Mutant Ape Yacht Club. Then you also got Bored Ape Kennel Club. So the Bored Ape right now is like worth 140 something ETH. The Mutant Ape is worth like 38, high 30s. The Bored Ape Kennel Club is 11, 12 ETH. And the Ape coin you got airdrop if you held everything. You just bought it, you minted it, you didn't do anything with it. You got airdrop like 12,000 with 13,000 of this coin. And the price is $23 a coin right now. That's like $300,000, man. So all your apes is worth like 560 something thousand dollars. Then you add 300 on top of that for the coin. So you turned couple $100 into close to $1 million in a year, less than a year, if you got into this project. And there's such a success. It's insane to think about. And these type of games are insane. I mean, I think the only games that exceed this is the sheep. If you bought sheep super early, then you got like millions of percent of return. But this is one project where it wasn't really known back in the day. Yuga Labs now it's worth over billions of dollars, the valuation. But man, like we were saying, Draco, right? These small companies or whatever you want, or projects you want to call them, it's just two people who started this, and now are super successful in this. And now you have Meta, Facebook trying to do the metaverse with all this backings, and maybe it is just like you said, Draco, that people don't trust them because they're so fed up with them. They don't really care about that. But man, this is a small project doing a lot of big things, right?
What is their metaverse like? What's the goal of their metaverse? Is this going to be like a video game, or like is it just going to be like a society of some kind, or what?
That I'm actually not sure, and I don't even really know if they definitely have the money to make something good, right? They have a whole bunch of money to do it. And the thing is, a lot of these, I think, metaverse or games or even like sandbox you're talking about, which is one of the biggest ones, honestly, the graphics, they suck. And a lot of these games, even if you talk about Axie Infinities, it's not that great of a game. It's just a game that's the best game that also has crypto tied to it. And like, I don't think you can point to any game that has crypto tied to it or the tokenomics tied to it. You can say, hey, this game is better than this AAA game. I don't think that has happened yet. And I don't think there's a metaverse where you can go in and you say, oh man, this is so immersive, this is so great. It's extreme. I think it's very hard to get to that point. But can the Bored Ape Yacht Club do it? They have the fundings for it.
Yeah, that's the other thing I want to say. Like, I think when it comes to the AAA games, I think what we're going to see is that AAA game companies are gonna merge with crypto companies, and they're going to make a AAA crypto game. I think that's honestly, I think that's the only answer, because you have like AAA gaming individuals attempting to make AAA games, and it's just not happening. So when I think we talked about this about a month ago, that we were saying that I can't remember the name of the company, but a company that's made huge games. I think was it Infinity Ward one of them is just got into crypto, and they're going to start making a game. So I think that's what's going to make those, those super awesome games, like, a game like Skyrim or something like that, that's visually crazy, but it's also got crypto involved. That's what it is. And specifically about Bored Ape Yacht Club, this is like one of those things. I feel like this is like the high roller society. Like, I can't participate in this. Like, personally, I can't get into Bored Ape Yacht Club because I can't afford a 146 ETH Bored Ape. Like, I can't. I can't afford a Mutant Ape for 40 ETH. I can't do any of that. Like, all of that stuff's out of my reach. So, like, it's almost like there's a different tier or different layer of crypto, and it's like an invite only type thing, or you have to have the funds to play in that world. And a lot of people can't play in that world. So this is almost unobtainable for most people. Like, I don't even think I know somebody that owns a Bored Ape, like, personally. I mean, I know influencers that have them, but not somebody that I know personally.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to watch this too, because it is like a high society, but it formed so organically, like there was no
Yep.
big celebrity push, no big media push. This just was like the first big NFT project that really kind of took the world by storm, and this high society just kind of, this crypto Illuminati just kind of formed around it,
I think you can. I think it really popped off when Justin Bieber or one of these celebrities that bought it. Then other celebrities start buying it. Stephen Curry has a Bored Ape. Snoop Dogg has a Bored Ape. So there's like celebrities getting it. So I think there's in the beginning it probably started off as a kind of organic thing, and I kind of wonder how many of those people who got in at the very beginning still hold it, because like let's say for example,
not very many, probably.
right, yeah, exactly, right. Like Draco, let's say if you or Smokey, you guys minted it at 0.08, would you have sold it at 10 ETH? What about 20,
oh
50,
yeah, I would have,
60,
yeah.
right? Like
I might have
so
held on to one or two of them if I had 10. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, but I think at that time where it was so unproven, we really don't like. Yeah, I think that's the only way for you to hold on to it, or you just say, hey, I really like this, or whatever it is, because it did take a little bit of time for it to kick off, right? And
Yeah.
I don't think when it minted, I might be wrong on this, and maybe so I think when it started minting, it wasn't like one of these projects that's like, oh, instantly minted out, right? So it took a little bit of time to get minted out, but it did eventually get minted out. And I think a lot of people that's holding it out, I'm really curious. I don't know where we can get the statistic, but how many of those people, the poor people, I guess you would say, are in this versus? I feel like, dude, this is just like you said, elite, high society thing.
Yep.
And I feel like when you talk about Bored Ape Yacht Club, it's like fine art. And the thing is, the reason fine art hold the value so well is because the rich people don't need to sell it. They don't care about this. They don't need
Right.
liquidity, right? You're not like some average Joe who's like, oh man, like I got to pay rent, I got to like dump this or that. But the thing is, with this Bored Ape, I think a lot of people who have it, they probably have millions. They're millionaires where they've been in this space so long that they don't have to sell the Bored Ape. So since there's very little sell, the floor price just can go higher and higher. And as you get higher, then it's get more exclusive. It's like the exclusivity, the luxury brands, right? The more expensive it is, the more people buy it. It's one of the things that the more you raise the price, the more people want it. And it's getting to that place. It's out of my reach. Do I want to mint a land? I don't think it's for me, man. Like, will you make money? Probably, but I just don't feel like this is my tier anymore,
Yeah, and we had a pretty good we had a question. Mallard asked, what do you think will be the next big NFT project? The thing is, I'll tell you two that I really like, but at the end of the day, nobody knows. I don't even think Bored Ape knew that they were going to be big, like, it just kind of happens. And there's two projects out there that I like a lot. And I actually have talked to the developers and stuff like that. So I like Neon Pantheon. I think it's a really awesome project. I thought they have some pretty visually stunning artwork. And then I really like Salty Pirate Crew. I think that they have some pretty cool stuff that they're doing, and they're building like an entire metaverse slowly and organically, just kind of like what we're talking about with Bored Ape Yacht Club, where they're making, you start with a pirate, and then you play a game, and then you mint other people in the game, and then eventually you're going to have areas that you can like own and like sleep in and have a quarters, and then eventually you can have a captain and eventually a ship. So like they're like creating an entire game slowly, organically, based off of, starting off with the first minted pirates, and they continue on from there. So I think it's a pretty cool project.
Speaking of that, did you guys get your first female yet?
Yeah, I've got my first
Yeah,
female.
I got mine too.
Oh man, yeah,
It's not
it's
rare.
pretty cool.
It's just a human, but I think we can probably mint another one or two before it all get minted out.
Yeah, I think there's 1,000, right?
Yep.
Yep. So there's going to be 1,000 females that are being minted. So pretty cool. It's a pretty cool idea. It's definitely unique, and I'm just having fun, and I think it's just fun to be a part of.
Yeah. And what I think, to answer this question, what I want to see, I guess, is I want to see an NFT project that's not just a profile pic, or we're just like, hey, you bought it, you have this thing, we have a great community, you can have shirts and stuff. Like, I don't think that's using NFT to its full potential.
Right.
I want to see, and I think, we talked about this. It feels like right now the games in this space, or even the metaverse in this space, it feels like they say, hey, let's make a coin, and then let's build a game around it, or let's make a coin, let's build a metaverse around it. Or like, it feels like the metaverse or the game is just like as a side thing that you tag onto this coin. So if it's just a side thing, it's not going to be that great. And I think eventually, like you mentioned this too, Draco, is that we need these. Either we get a company that has a bunch of money that can make some AAA level type of game that also has NFTs. I've heard talks about where you can have NFTs in the sense like you can transfer different items across different games. Because right now, like if I have something, let's say if I bought something in Call of Duty, it doesn't really, I can't bring it to Battlefield, right? They say like, what if we actually make it NFT using in such way that these AAA games can have some sort of a connection where you're kind of building this whole big, I guess, metaverse thing where you're using the NFT technology to its full potential, not just like, hey, look at this cool picture I got. You can right click it, but it's mine because it's on the blockchain. So that's what I want to see. And I think the next project that is able to do that could be the biggest one. And we don't even know if, right now, of course, Bored Ape Yacht Club, they're partnering with the Sandbox creators and Amaka. I don't even know how to say that name, but they're partnering. I mean, but we know Sandbox, right? Sandbox is one of the biggest metaverse in the land, sells for a decent amount of money. So they have the head start and they have the money, but can someone else come and maybe that has the talent, or maybe with these big companies getting here and start making something like that? I would like to see not a big company do it. And Draco, you mentioned this too with Facebook and things like that. And unfortunately, I do feel that in the future, once we want this to be decentralized, we want this to be like us. But I do feel like there's gonna be more and more centralization, even in crypto space, going into the future, which is not what we want to see. But which also means that these big companies eventually will eat up all these smaller companies, and eventually it's just gonna be I guess with the world we have now again, with this big conglomerates are just kind of take control everything.
Yeah, hopefully that's not what happens. But the unfortunate thing about the way that these big things work is it's always survival of the fittest, and the best will rise to the top. And with that mentality, which is the mentality we always have for this stuff, that's when you create these giants, right? That's how Bored Ape Yacht Club is the way it is. The best, get to the top.
Yeah, and then you buy all the smaller projects once you get to the top. And
right.
Yeah. You either buy them to close them down, or you just buy it to, and they're just going to be part of yours. And it's extremely tough to compete with it because they have all the money, right? It's like you unfortunately, you're the underdog coming to this space, and it's very hard to compete with these big companies. And even during this whole lockdown and everything, it's these big companies that got bigger. We closed down the small shops, the small, medium businesses, and all these big business can do business as they want because they have government backing. Why do they have government backing? Because they have a whole bunch of money. So they just swallow up all the business. Amazon has, the revenue has been insane. Of course, now it's slowing down a little bit. But why? Because when everyone's closed down, they're still operating. They're still shipping out whatever products it is. And it, like, we're saying, we don't want to see it in this space, and hopefully it doesn't happen. But the cynical side of me says it's going to happen. And so I think eventually the metaverse and things like that, probably a big company is going to create something.
It's going to be Ready Player One. There's going to be that big company that puts all these people on treadmills so that they're making money for them. I mean, that's what's going to end up happening. I hope it doesn't, but unfortunately, I think that's what it's going to end up doing.
It's trending that way. There's no question about that.
Absolutely.
Well, is there any other topics you guys want to cover? How about Twitter's earnings call? Didn't they have to release their earnings today, or did they not have to release it publicly?
No, I think they released it.
Was it good?
I think it was actually okay. But
I didn't catch it.
At this point, it really doesn't matter anymore because Elon is buying it. And I think so. Elon is buying it at $54.20, right? And Twitter price right now is $49. Of course, the deal can still fall through, and it might take months or even like this whole year to get everything worked out. But I think technically, if it all works out, you can buy it now and get like 10% return on your money when he buys it out. And so I really don't know. And I think Elon's been going crazy on Twitter, man. Have you seen his?
He's like trolling people.
Have you seen his tweet on Coca-Cola?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, man. He doesn't care anymore, I guess, now because he owns it.
Yeah, I think he's just doing that to piss people off because, like you're not going to be held accountable. You're allowed to say like whatever you want. You should be able to just say like, hey, I'm going to buy Coca-Cola and put cocaine back into it. Like there's no relevance to that. There's nothing to really like. I think he's just doing that to prove a point. Like, I'm allowed to say whatever I want, and it is what it is. So I don't know. I think he's just trolling people, and he's doing a good job of it because people are pissed off. Like he's freaking people out.
Oh yeah,
and I just laugh at it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun the last few days just watching
Absolutely
him, do his thing.
Yeah, and I think I was gonna say something about what he's. Oh no, yeah, I remember now. I think he's straight up trash talked one of the top Twitter executives, and people are saying it's like, why did he do that? Is this kind of like his company? He shouldn't be doing that, but maybe. Well, we've been thinking about this, right? But maybe he's just gonna fire everyone and just take it.
That might be the best way to go. You got to clear house. If it was a regular, corporate business, that's what they always do, right? Whenever they buy a company, they clear everybody out and they put their own people in power.
Yeah.
So that's standard.
There are talks, so ever since this decision came to be, where they say we accepted the deal, Tesla stock has dropped from the thousands. It dropped like 10%. Now it's in the 800s. Maybe now it's in the 900s, but it dropped a good amount. So there's people saying that a lot of these billionaires doesn't really like Elon doing this because, of course, a lot of the rich people lean towards a certain direction. And Bezos, who doesn't tweet at all, really comes in. He threw a punch at Elon. Basically, he was saying something like, oh man, I'll summarize. He said it in a better way than how I would say it now, but he basically called Elon China's lapdog.
What?
And
that doesn't make any sense.
Well, Elon is getting a very special treatment in China right now for Tesla.
Wow.
And it's a treatment that China doesn't really give to foreign businesses. And what I think is China is doing this to steal the tech of Tesla. And when they actually get it, they're gonna dump Elon because you can't trust them. You can't trust the government over there.
Yeah. And I heard that same story, and what I heard was there's a lot of people that realized that by investing into Tesla, they were helping Elon buy Twitter, so they were pissed off. Like, wait a minute, I gave him money to buy Twitter, and they're like, no, and then they wanted their money back.
Yeah, of course there's people say, oh, Elon's gonna sell off Tesla to fund this Twitter purchase. But I mean, he wouldn't need to sell that much
No.
because I think there's funding also. But that one day, the day after this was announced, Tesla lost like $110 billion worth of value because it dropped so much. So there's a lot of talks. I think the top tier billionaires, man, they really can't stand Elon. And I like Elon in this aspect. Like I said before, I still hesitate on what he is. I think he's more libertarian. There's stuff that he does I don't like, Neuralink and things like that, putting chips in your brain, that I'm completely against. But if we just talk about the pure perspective, like freedom or libertarian perspective, that he's kind of for, is like, hey, less control, we're gonna have freedom speech, all this. Hey, I'm all for that. And he's rubbing a lot of rich people the wrong way, but he's extremely rich himself and he's really smart, so he's able to do this, and it's extremely entertaining to see.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal to like disagree with somebody on a few things and like
Nope.
the same person for other things, like that's kind of a normal way to approach it, isn't it? Like, I know nowadays it's like you're either all in for somebody or against somebody, but it's like, yeah, Elon Musk, there's things I like about him and things I don't like about him. I just know this Twitter
It's
stuff's
actually
been
really healthy
fun.
to have a mindset like that, believe it or not. That's
Yeah.
healthy and normal.
But well, anything else you guys want to talk about tonight?
No, man, I think that's about it. I think it's been a pretty active week, and I think all this news is going to catch up. It's slow. It's going to catch up, and hopefully it'll the cryptocurrency will decouple from the equities market, and and I think we'll just start going crazy. It's going to happen. I just don't know when.
Yep.
All right. Well, we will be back on Monday at 8:30 Central Time. So until then, we'll see you then. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and we're always happy to have everybody here. And that's all I got to say for tonight.
Enjoy your weekend. See you guys on Monday.
Have a good weekend, guys.
Have a good weekend. Bye.